Hi, I'm Cindy Clayton, and I want to talk about the mentoring relationship in this video. So, I've had the distinct honor to be mentored by some really fantastic people and to serve as a mentor to a few superstars in my life. And so, I want to talk about the advantages of the relationship and how to go about finding a mentor, finding a mentee, and how to nurture that relationship and enjoy it to its full advantage. So I was very lucky early on to get some good advice, which was when you start your career, try to find a mentor and an advocate within your organization. And oftentimes, the mentor and the advocate aren't the same person. I was very lucky to get a job in a small HR department when I first graduated from college. And my boss, his name was Bill. He had grown a lot in his position as manager, and it was just Bill and me in the HR department. And so he was ready for a new challenge, which, lucky for me, turned out to be teaching me everything he knew. And so it turned out to be an opportunity for us both to grow in that way, that he could serve as teacher, and then he was also in the National Guard, and he could nurture his relationship and his position in the military and feel comfortable that he had left someone behind in the company that would do things the way he would. Gave me a great opportunity to learn about military management as well from him, and to learn from a military style leader. And that was an important step for me because my undergraduate degree is in psychology, and so I hadn't had a lot of experience or training in business practices. So the military can be used as a great example for the way to lead and motivate others. And then he also happened to fill that role as an advocate as my boss and as the top HR person at our small company. And that provided me with a little bit of shelter to make some mistakes because he would say, you know, you come to me first and you tell me what's happened, and then I'll deal with it, and then we'll deal with the mistake or the issue. And that turned out to be a really big advantage in giving me a head start in my career. So one of the mistakes we often make as young people is to sort of force the mentor relationship, or we start looking for a mentor immediately when we take a job. And while that is well intended, it's not necessarily the way that a really healthy mentor relationship happens. A lot of times they happen from a connection with someone. And the mentor will often see a talent or a spark in a potential mentee and approach that individual. Or the mentee will have a connection or something in common, a shared interest with the mentor that will form a connection to begin the process. So I'll talk a little bit more about that throughout this video. So a mentor, when they see somebody that they want to mentor, they they are excited about that person's potential and their talent. So they want to see that person grow because they're excited about what that person brings. One example from my career is I had an intern named Jamie. And one of the reasons that I hired Jamie was because she had worked for a fast food place for 5 years, while getting really good grades, while being involved in high school sports and activities. And so there's this really deep work ethic in this very small package. I say that not necessarily of stature, but she was very soft spoken, a little insecure about what she knew, and I saw in her so much more, and so much talent and potential that I wanted to help to bring it out in her, and I wanted to see what she could do, and so that was exciting for me. And one of the reasons why I continued the relationship was that she never let me down. Whenever I would challenge her to try something more difficult or to take over a process, she would always take it to the next level. So it was rewarding to me because I found I was right about her. And we all want to be right about people, especially when we have a positive feeling about them. So I thought, wow, I am making a difference for her. I am seeing her grow. She does have all this potential that I thought I saw in her, and it's very exciting to be a part of that. Essentially, from Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In, one of the quotes that I took from chapter 5 was, "Excel and you will get a mentor," which we often hear, get a mentor and you'll excel. But the thing is that you have to show the potential first. Many times I see young people who are who know that they need to get a mentor, but they're not excited about what they're doing, or they are lukewarm about the company or the even the mentoring process, and so that's not an investment that I would necessarily want to make. So just being willing to be mentored isn't enough. You have to be willing to always show up and perform for that mentor and in that mentoring relationship. An advantage to a mentor is from the mentee is that good counsel comes from all around us. And if we are humble enough to realize that we have things to learn from everyone around us, including, small children and, podcasts and YouTube videos, we can learn from our mentees as well. One thing I noticed when I was in sort of middle management was I had lost touch with the voices of a lot of people who I was used to working with as I was moving through my career. So I wasn't hearing challenges as much as I used to. And a mentee can really help bring that perspective. And as I am now in middle age, I find that it's easy to lose touch with the exciting things that the new generation, what they're thinking, what they are doing, what they need, what they're excited about. And a mentee can be a great catalyst for new ideas and change in an organization, and for middle managers who want to grow and even upper managers who want to continue to grow. This is a priceless way to continue that growth. On the mentee side, you need to be ready with the specifics of what you want to learn. So I would have people come to me who would say, I'd give them some time and we'd sit down and they'd say, okay, tell me what I need to know about HR. Okay, so you have to be more specific because there's a lot to it, of sort of distilling down a 20-year career in a few minutes is not really going to benefit either one of us. But someone who would come in and say, I notice you have an instinct for, with recruiting, to be able to figure out what talents people have. How do you develop that instinct? Or what can I do? I see that you're also extroverted, that you have an instinct for this. I feel like I have that too. How do you develop that? How can I develop it? And then, understand and respect the time that the mentor gives to you, and be prepared for when you have that meeting with the mentor with what you want to learn. And if they have something they want to teach you, that's great. But the burden of what to teach shouldn't necessarily be on the mentor. It should be what the mentee wants to learn, and meet them 3/4 of the way with what you want to know and what you need to know. The things to remember about the time that you spend with a mentor is it is not a good use of their time to assume that they're your therapist. You don't want to talk to them about issues that you're having in life. You should talk, unless it is career related. Again, you want to use this relationship in the way that it was intended. They're definitely not going to be open to doing a lot of hand holding. So for the actual job. So this relationship is supposed to be above what, so if they're your supervisor too, what is the supervisor supposed to teach you? This should be mainly about the career and growth. It's not a complaint session. It's not for you to try to get an advantage over other people in your organization. It is definitely not an opportunity for you to use that as shelter when for perhaps underperforming or circumventing processes, circumventing your supervisor. That is certainly not going to be a recipe for success. So you cannot take advantage, even if an opportunity presents itself for you to use your mentor to take advantage in your organization. You must not take it. You will ruin your ability to be mentored from then on, because upper management will see that as a toxic relationship to take on. So no one will want to do that. Like I said, even if it presents itself to you, you are the one who has to then not take it. That brings me to the optics of the relationship. And this is something that I'm speaking to people who want to be mentors at this point. Some people don't want to take on mentees because of the potential optics, especially when we're talking about a potential for a male-female interaction. I did mention, my first boss was male, and certainly there were some people who had some things to say about that. Over the years, here are some things that I've learned about how to manage those optics, though. And it has to be managed on both sides. So both the mentee and the mentor have to be very professional and open about this relationship. So that means perhaps, doors open for the most part. And regardless of how you identify, I would have doors open. I would have a knowledge throughout the organization that is a mentor-mentee relationship. As a mentor, you have to be really careful about to whom you grant access to you. So a role I was in at one point in my career was the manager of employment in a mid-sized employer. And there were, I think, 5 of us managers on the team. And the other managers had a sort of lunching relationship with some other staff, and it became a special access issue. And I was not invited to the lunching, which was fine, because the way I viewed it was everyone needed to have equal access to me. So someone else who wasn't in the lunching crowd, if they had an issue with their supervisor, they needed to know that I was a neutral party in that dynamic. And so as a professional matter, I had to make the decision that I had to manage that access. And so I chose to lunch with no one. So I said, there will be no lunches. If I had working lunches with staff, that was always inside the office and always an open invitation. So it would be just, hey, I'm going to eat at my desk and yeah, I want to pick your brain for a few minutes. All right, well, tell everyone else they can bring their lunch and we'll have this time. And it is wise to also always have your meetings in the office, especially if there could be an optics issue or a perception issue. Perhaps you go and get coffee and you bring it back, or you go with a group of people. So again, you may think, why would I do that? Perception is reality. So it doesn't matter that the reality of the situation is that the relationship is above board and you feel that everyone could have access to you. It is what people perceive. And as a mentor, being careful not to overemphasize that mentee relationship and make it look like it's special access is really important to your career, your growth, and how people perceive you in terms of fairness and openness. That also keeps people from gossiping. You're never going to completely keep that out, but to the degree that there can be no mistake about your intentions or the relationship. Also, I would say, in terms of gossip, as a mentor mentee, that you refrain from engaging in any office gossip or company gossip with one another, as tempting as it is, especially if you have a really great rapport. It definitely damages the context of the relationship. And this is a mistake that I've made, and maybe not so much gossip, but it was abundantly clear probably how I viewed some relationships to my mentees. And if I were to do it again, I would not be quite so open, because that sets a bad example. And we want to think about how we vent in a workplace. So we want to vent, to our supervisor, not to our peers, and not to our mentors. So that is a bit of professional advice. Naturally, you can choose to do as you wish, but it's been my experience that that's the best recipe for success. So a mentor-mentee relationship can be mutually beneficial to the mentor and the mentee when it's done right. And it's a really important aspect of carrying on, knowledge transfer and teaching. So, we oftentimes expect people to just wake up one day and get our organization's culture and to get what we expect of them as an organization. But we're unwilling to put in the work to teach, train, and mentor. And this is a vital step that, if we want to be successful, that we'll need to do. Another great piece of advice that I want to give you is you should be training yourself out of a job at all times. So if you're hoarding information and knowledge, that means simply that you can't be promoted. And most of us do want to continue to learn and grow in our jobs, and that's not a thought process that helps us to get promoted. So we should always be working ourselves out of a job, training ourselves out of a job, if we want to be successful in moving through our careers. Having a mentee sets an example that we expect an environment of learning, and it also sets an example to our mentees that when their time comes, that they're expected to teach and train others as well. And so if you feel secure in your work values and your work product and your work ethic, then mentoring might be a great way for you to ensure that that continues on well after you are retired and into the next generations. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, C. Clayton Consulting, and have a great day.